Have you ever wondered what it takes to leave an unforgettable mark on the pages of history? Not just to be remembered but to inspire generations long after you're gone? Imagine possessing a vision so powerful that it shapes the course of humanity itself. Well, stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll find yourself looking at leadership in ways you never imagined. Leadership. It's a word thrown around so often these days that it's almost lost its meaning. But true leadership? That's a rare gem, a fusion of courage, vision, and the ability to unite people in the face of impossible odds. And as we uncover the top 5 greatest leaders in history, let me ask you, what would you do if the world depended on you? Would you rise to the occasion, or would the weight of expectation crush you? Think about that as we dive into our first figure. Picture this: a battlefield soaked in uncertainty. Soldiers tired and afraid, doubting the fight. And then, from the chaos, emerges a figure on horseback. Alexander the Great, a man who conquered the known world before most of us today would graduate college. His army wasn't the biggest. His resources weren't endless. But his ability to inspire, to lead, was unmatched. Ask yourself, could you convince a band of weary warriors to march thousands of miles into the unknown? That's exactly what he did. But don't be fooled, even his greatness had a cost. More on that in just a moment. Speaking of visionaries, let's jump to a leader who didn't wield a sword but changed the world with sheer resolve. Abraham Lincoln. Imagine inheriting a nation on the brink of tearing itself apart. Most people would crumble under that pressure, but not Lincoln. With the Civil War raging, he managed not just to save the Union but to redefine freedom itself. Now, let's pause for a second. If you had the power to change the course of your country, would you have the courage to do it, knowing the cost? Keep that in mind as we move forward. Now, here's a wild question. What do you think is harder, leading soldiers into battle or fighting for peace with no weapons at all? That brings us to Mahatma Gandhi, a man who took on an empire with nothing more than his unshakable belief in nonviolence. And he didn't just fight for independence. He fought for a new way of thinking, one where the greatest weapon is conviction. Quick side note, have you ever tried sticking to a diet for a week? Now imagine leading millions in a movement while fasting for days. Gandhi wasn't just disciplined, he was relentless. But here's the twist, even his greatest strength had its limit. Stick around and we'll circle back to that. If Gandhi's weapon was peace, this next leader used sheer resilience. Winston Churchill. Now, don't roll your eyes just yet, because Churchill wasn't your typical politician. He faced failure after failure, ridicule, and even depression. But when the world seemed darkest during World War II, his voice became a beacon of hope. Imagine being the one person who had to convince an entire nation not to give up, and not just any nation, but one facing almost certain defeat. Churchill had this way of turning fear into fire, despair into determination. Now I've got to ask, how do you think he found the strength to keep going? We'll come back to that. Finally, let's talk about a leader who broke the mold entirely. Martin Luther King Jr., a man who dared to dream out loud at a time when those dreams could get you killed. His leadership wasn't about power or titles. It was about transforming pain into purpose. Imagine standing in front of thousands, knowing your words could ignite change, or get you silenced forever. But here's the kicker. It wasn't just his speeches that made him legendary. It was his ability to inspire action, to make ordinary people believe they could achieve extraordinary things. So, what connects these leaders? Each one faced incredible odds, yet they didn't just survive, they thrived. But here's a twist you might not expect. They were all deeply flawed. Alexander's ambition sometimes veered into arrogance. Lincoln battled crippling doubt. Gandhi's ideals often clashed with harsh realities. Churchill's stubbornness was as much a weakness as it was a strength. And King? He faced criticism not just from opponents but even from his allies. But isn't that what makes them truly great? Not perfection, but perseverance? Now, I'll leave you with this. Leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about standing up when it's easier to sit down, about speaking out when silence feels safer. So, here's the real question. What's stopping you from being the leader you're meant to be? The world doesn't need another follower. It needs you, your vision, your courage, your voice. Because if history has taught us anything, it's that the future belongs to those bold enough to shape it. If this video made you think, feel, or question even for a moment, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And hey, drop a comment. Tell us which leader inspires you the most and why. Because who knows? Your story could be the next one to inspire the world. Until next time, stay bold.